Welcome to Gracious George podcast. My new podcast features the topics of spirituality, divine love, blessings, and how divine providence lead us to where we need to be in life. As a Mauritian, being raised on a small island in the Indian Ocean east of Africa called Mauritius, I grew up in cultural diversity. I have African, European, and Indian descent, and I speak Mauritian Creole, French, English, Bhojpuri, and Hindi fluently. Initially, on the path to priesthood, my life took a turn. As I followed my heart, I learned the love that was meant for me by walking with Jesus. My experience toward divine love has been an incredible journey, and I've written a book about how my life evolved when I turned to a greater love in my life. It is called The Jesuit Who Changed Paths, and it will be available very soon. You can follow along by finding me on my Facebook page at George's forthcoming book. In this podcast, I'm sharing my experience with you, and I welcome your conversation and your interaction on this subject. Today, I have the pleasure to share with you my reflection on the mercy of Jesus. Jesus showed his mercy in unusual ways. He took the cultural norms and expectations of his contemporaries and turned them upside down. He did not act according to expected norms. Because of this, he captured the attention and imagination of his listeners. His way of life and his teachings challenged not only his regular faithful, but also the Jewish scribes and Pharisees who were critical of the way he reached out to sinners and associated with them. Those same self righteous scribes and Pharisees acted as though they were the only ones who had access to God. The Nobel Prize laureate Elie Wiesel had, in a way, summarized the mercy of Jesus when he wrote, I quote, "There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest." Those words resonated deeply within me. Jesus never failed to protest when he saw injustices, especially against the poor, the sinners, the outcasts of his society. That unique way of Jesus to show his mercy is illustrated in his relationship with Mary Magdalene. I've chosen Mary Magdalene because on July 22nd, 2021, was her feast in the Catholic Church. Mary Magdalene was one of the original Galilean disciples of Jesus and one of the many women who followed him in his ministry. Little can be said of her origins. She is characterized simply as a woman from whom 7 demons had gone out. And although there is no scriptural basis, later tradition depicted her as a penitent prostitute and linked her with the woman found in adultery in the Gospel of John. That woman was a victim of an unjust law that stoned adulterous women to death but left the men free. The crowd wanted to stone her, but Jesus stood by her by protesting silently and wisely against the abusive law and the hypocrisy of the crowd. Let us listen to the story. John chapter 8, verses 2 to 11. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts, where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then, neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and live your life of sin." The law was flawed. It was biased against women, but never had anyone dared to challenge it. But Jesus, in a calm, silent, and wise manner, unmasked its hypocrisy and set the woman free, not only from the crowd, but also from her life of sin. If that woman was Mary Magdalene, as tradition believes, and she was also the prostitute described in the scene at Simon's the Pharisee's place, then we understand the impact of Jesus' action on her life. Let us listen to that story as well as described in St. Luke's Gospel. Luke chapter 7, verses 36 to 49. A Pharisee invited Jesus to have dinner with him. So Jesus went to the Pharisee's home and got ready to eat. When a sinful woman in that town found out that Jesus was there, she bought an expensive bottle of perfume. Then she came and stood behind Jesus. She cried and started washing his feet with her tears and drying them with her hair. The woman kissed his feet and poured the perfume on them. The Pharisee who had invited Jesus saw this and said to himself, "If this man really were a prophet, he would know what kind of woman is touching him. He would know that she is a sinner." Jesus said to the Pharisee, "Simon, I have something to say to you." "Teacher, what is it?" Simon replied. Jesus told him, "Two people were in debt and to a money lender. One of them owed him 500 silver coins, and the other owed him 50. Since neither of them could pay him back, the money lender said that they did not have to pay him anything. Which one of them will like him more? Simon answered, I suppose it would be the one who had owed more and did not have to pay it back. You are right, Jesus said. He turned toward the woman and said to Simon, have you noticed this woman? When I came into your home, you did not give me any water so I could wash my feet, but she has washed my feet with her tears and dried them with her hair. You did not greet me with a kiss, but from the time I came in, she has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not even pour olive oil on my head, but she has poured expensive perfume on my feet. So I tell you that all her sins are forgiven, and that is why she has shown great love. But anyone who has been forgiven for only a little will show only a little love. Then Jesus said to the woman, your sins are forgiven. Some other guests started saying to one another, who is this who dares to forgive sins? This scene shows the deep love and gratitude of Mary Magdalene towards Jesus for saving her life when she was going to be stoned to death. It shows also how the actions of Jesus protest the unjust attitude and behavior of his contemporaries. Sinners were looked down upon and treated as outcasts by the Jewish authorities, whereas Jesus treated them as human beings, respected their dignity, and welcomed them. If the two unnamed women, the one found in adultery and the one at Simon's place, were in fact Mary Magdalene, it made sense that once touched by the mercy of Jesus, she became one of his most faithful followers. All four Gospels name her among the women who followed Jesus to Golgotha and there witnessed his passion and death. While all the male disciples fled, it was these women who had the courage to remain faithful to the end. Mary Magdalene, with the other women, attended the trial of Jesus, followed him on the way of the cross. He stood by the Virgin Mary, supporting and consoling her as the Roman soldiers crucified her son. She was there to help Joseph of Arimathea bring down the body of Jesus from the cross, carry it to the tomb, and bury him. She witnessed the soldiers roaring the huge stone to block the entrance of the tomb and sealing it. And she was one of the women who went to the tomb early on the third day, hoping to anoint his body. They found instead an empty tomb, guarded by an angel who revealed that Jesus was raised from death. According to the Gospel of John, Mary was weeping outside the tomb when she saw Jesus. She failed at first to recognize him until he addressed her with a single word, Mary. Rabboni, she cried. He instructed her to go to the disciples and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. It was Mary Magdalene, the prostitute, the sinner, the faithful disciple who first proclaimed this good news to the 12. Thus, she was often called the apostle to the apostles. As we can see, the attitude and actions of Jesus are a good illustration of the words I quoted at the beginning. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice. But there must never be a time when we fail to protest. Their way of life and teachings of Jesus show that protest for justice is a high form of charity. Thank you for listening to this podcast on the mercy of Jesus. As I mentioned to you at the beginning, I've written a book on my journey through life. The working title is The Jesuit Who Changed Paths. It will be available soon. Please find my page, George's Forthcoming Book on Facebook. Like it and follow it so you can join in on the conversation. Until the next time, stay safe and be blessed. Thank you.